All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to kick off media availabilities today at Phoenix Raceway with driver of the number 8 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet Kyle Busch. If you have a question for Kyle, please raise your hand and we will get a microphone over to you. We'll start right up here, Jazz. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Kyle, hello. I have a technical question. I was told at this race, or 1 mile oval or less, you have a special new package. Can you describe what's the behavior of the car? Is it difficult or easier to drive? Much different than before?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wasn't one of the ones that got to test this package or a similar package to what we're racing this weekend. But from my understanding, what I heard is, yes, it's a little bit more difficult to drive by itself. It'll be a little bit looser feeling in the back of the car, less rear downforce, less overall downforce. And but we hope that it'll be a little bit better in traffic where you won't be affected as much by trailing the car in front of you and the wake that the car in front of you puts off.
All right, let's go to Bob and then Lee.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. How would you assess the effectiveness of the length of the longer restart zone? You've been the leader. Sometimes do you feel like it gives you any more of an advantage or any more ability to dictate the way things go?
No, I think all it's done is cause that wreck at California. So, in my opinion, it's done nothing different, nothing on the positive end. It's only added a negative end to it because at California, Joey was just maintaining his speed and everybody was gaining, closing up their gaps because they all try to lay back and then time the run. And so he just waited for everybody to run into everybody and then went at the end of the zone. And so the bigger you make that zone, the more anticipation everybody has and the more accordion effect you get. So I knew that going in, and I was not a proponent of lengthening the zone, but nobody tends to listen to me a whole lot.
All right, Lee and then Dustin.
Kyle, how relieved are you just the simple fact that Chevrolet just really seems to be on top of their game to start this season?
Yeah, it's all the KFB effect. Everything right here. Got them all tuned in to the right pages, and we're rolling. But no, seriously. I'm going to give a huge props to Eric Warren and his group and his team of everybody at the Chevy Tech Center. They've been doing a really good job, and a lot of stuff behind the scenes has kind of been happening. So I've been in a little bit of that, especially on the truck side with our guys at KBM, but also some of the Cup stuff and just trying to work on some of the processes and things that they do. And but they've come out and done a nice job so far. So that's positive for our start to the season.
And the ability to add a 50-minute practice next week at COTA, can you just address how helpful that is when you're starting with a new team like you are?
Yeah, well, we tested there in January, so I was one of the ones that was like, we don't need the practice. We're good. I don't want to give anybody else any more added track time. We had plenty when we were there. We ran close to 200 laps, and I was smoked after that one. So I didn't need any more track time, but we got that, I guess. And so yeah, we'll just work on what we need to work on with the reduced downforce and the changes that they made to the car. We felt like we had a really good test where we had really good notes on what we had there. We tested with last year's stuff, not this current one. And so it's going to be a lot different, I'm sure. And I don't know that just with the amount of stuff that you can do in sim, I feel like it'll be fine for us if we didn't have practice. But we'll take the 50 and go.
Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Kyle, you talk about people not listening to you, but obviously RCR listens to you. Those meetings, you've had a month of meetings.
Not those people.
I know.
It's on your shirt. Keep going.
But what I was just asking is, as somebody new coming in, even with what you've been able to do and accomplish, how did you take going into those meetings, and how forceful, I don't know if that's the right word, or in bringing things up or opening ideas, you're learning things in there and they're trying to learn from you. The dynamic of that meeting, how that's maybe I don't know, different from previous experience because you had everything kind of established previously?
Yeah. What meeting are you talking about?
Just team meetings.
Team meetings.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, certainly there was a big discussion on that, on just how they've done things, how I've done things. We had a whole roundtable discussion of the key people that we needed. This was early January, and so we kind of hammered through a bunch of stuff, and brought up a lot of different topics, and I still don't have all of what I want accomplished yet. Most of that is data driven and stuff you get after practice or after qualifying and things. So still pushing on much of that. We don't have all of that how I want it yet, but everything else, yeah. I mean, the team meetings have gone well. I feel like they've been a little bit productive. Hopefully those that are with us in those meetings feel the same way. So it's been a good sense. I know Austin and I have really liked the way that it is and how we got it set up, and so it's been useful for us.
With your homework and studying, in essence, and all the work you do for each event, have you had to do anything more in kind of learning more about this group or seeing how they do things to kind of be able to bring up, hey, I know you did this here, but here is another example or way to do potentially better? How does that impact how you study? Are you trying to learn the team as you go along too?
Yeah, I mean, last week we struggled at Vegas, right? Let's be honest. And so, last week at Vegas we struggled. Last year at Vegas we were really good with the Toyota bunch, and the Toyota bunch showed decent speed there as well too. So I wasn't privy to those setup sheets, so I wasn't able to just hand that over and say, here, this is what we need to do, this is where we need to go. And start from, but we've been working a lot from their stuff that they've been accustomed to and what they've been running. And obviously, Fontana was a huge success for us. That really worked. Vegas, I thought, was going to be better than it was. We're still working on some of those answers as to what happened there. But here last year, the 8 bunch, ran second, third there towards the later stages of the race and had a good run. So Austin was in the top 10 before I think the last lap crash that he was in. So again, you try to rely on what they did last year and improve it as much as you can with the tools that you have right now. But until you go out there and run these races, really that's the learning is what happens in the race, and then being able to go back and really dissect each and every piece of the car and the race and the strategy and the pit call and whatever changes you make, all of that stuff, so that these meetings last quite a while.
Claire and then Reed.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. This package is supposed to put it more in the driver's hands, make it more difficult to drive the cars, which a lot of the drivers like. You have so much experience, right? So do you feel like that benefits you, or that, you like that?
Yeah, I mean, you would say that, yes, that you want it to be more in the driver's hands. Although last year I think I'd set a new record for amount of times you could spin out during the season. So, I was about backwards in every race, so that was not fun. But, I think that kind of just goes to show that, some guys, they'll run on the way up the mountain and then they won't get over peak and go down peak, where I feel like when I race and I get up to peak and I try to teeter on the front side and the back side of that before completely losing it, So I'm always just maybe a little bit closer to that edge, and so that's some of my issue of spinning or having issues sometimes, but trying to get the most out of everything that you got. So having, a little bit something that you've got to finesse and feel, it just takes a little bit of learning that. And so hopefully we got more grip than all the rest.
Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. What's your reaction to having 2 prominent F1 drivers like Kimi Räikkönen and Jenson Button coming to NASCAR?
Yeah, I mean, I hope Kimi gets a better opportunity than he had his last time out of going out there and running a full race. But I think it's fun. I think it's great that they have that opportunity. Trackhouse won that race last year, so they'll be a force to be reckoned with. And then the SHR guys, I think, are doing that 15 ride for Jensen. But it's cool to see the diversity of not only just different backgrounds of drivers and where they come from. So I'm not excited, but just it's going to be cool to have them out there and be a part of our show. And they're not used to the full contact sport of what NASCAR is, and so you know, I'm sure I'm sure Kimi's eyes were opened quite a bit on how all that went down at Watkins Glen, but he's more ready and prepared this time around.
And what about getting William Byron back in a KBM truck?
Yeah, that's going to be great for us. Really good to have William, a KBM alum, to come back and work with us again and being a part of the Chevy team. And so excited that you know, HendrickCars.com and Rick and Jeff and everybody there at HMS partnered with us on this and got William 3 races. So those were the ones he chose. He stole one of mine, actually. So I'm still bummed that I don't get to run at North Wilkesboro, but it'll be nice to have, you know, an experienced driver again that can come over and continue to help evaluate and not just be me, but you know, showcase. We got a lot of new people over there, Brian Patty and that whole group. Majority of that group is new, so it'll be nice to get another set of eyes on it, if you will.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Kyle, Randall Burnett, 3 wins last season, so you kind of knew you were getting a good crew chief, and you've probably seen him around. I know you're both out at Millbridge and different things like that. What have you learned about him? What are some of the things that you didn't expect, maybe better than you expected? What are just some of the qualities that he brings that you guys lean on with each other?
Yeah, no, I was excited about my chance of working with him last year when all this kind of started to come up, and then just spending some time with him, getting to know him. You know, my wife and his wife and all 4 of us go out to dinner every once in a while, and so that's been super helpful to just kind of build that relationship and that friendship. And you know, essentially a driver and a crew chief is like a marriage. You know, you're gonna have your good days, you're gonna have your bad days, and how you go about all that is how you will best come out on top when it's all said and done. So Randall's been super fun to work with and very receptive to a lot of my ideas. You know, I've been trying to just kind of come into his play group, or his, how do you say that? His playbook, thank you, of how he kind of goes about, does stuff, and then just kind of throwing in little pieces of what my playbook has kind of looked like for the last, you know, 15 years or whatever. But very similar tendencies. You know, he's really a go-getter. You know, at Fontana, he asked if I was okay because I was so quiet over the radio, and I'm like, I'm not one that just spouts off all damn day on the radio. Like, I have my Kyle Busch top greatest hits moments, yes, but besides that, you know, there's not much said on the radio. So that was a little bit for him to get accustomed to. But when you got a good driving car, you don't really talk a whole lot. You go to work.
All right, we're going to go to John and then close out with Bob.
John Hervelin, the Circuit Journal. Kind of off the question about Raikkonen and Button racing. I remember last year Hamlin, I think the word he kind of used was like a novelty, having Raikkonen at the race. And I want to ask about, like, can those guys compete as well as Jordan Taylor and even Davenport at the Bristol Dirt Race? Are they going to be competitive, or is it like kind of, not to put words in your mouth, but like a novelty type thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's opportunity for them to be competitive, yeah. I think it kind of all depends on how much work and behind-the-scenes stuff that they do. You know, Raikkonen last year I thought was respectable. He really didn't get to show a full race, so we didn't get a good sense of that. But being with Trackhouse, I would like to think that he's got probably the best opportunity, let's say. Let's go with that. You know, but these cars are so different than anything that these guys are used to driving. They're different than what anything I've ever been used to driving. So we're all still trying to feel that out and figure that out. I mean, last year we had 19 different winners. This year we're already at 3, you know. So it can go the same way again this year. It's whenever you get the luck of the draw on a pit stop or get out front or whatever it might be. But, you know, me jumping in a dirt late model and going to compete against Jonathan Davenport, I failed successfully at that Bristol last year when I ran the dirt late model, or 2 years ago. So him coming over and thinking that he's going to jump in and go win a cup race right out of the gate, I think you got another thing coming. But, you know, it's just a matter of doing the experience, learning from it, having fun with it, and getting better at it.
Bob?
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. You said last week that you had texted Chase. I'm curious if you were able to have a conversation with him, and if so, like, how are his spirits and everything?
I have not, no.
All right, thank you for your time, Kyle. Good luck this weekend.